we dream by the fire, to face unafraid the plans that we made, walking in a winter wonderland.
I'm sitting alone in my house by the phone, and my father calls me up.
It's starting to snow, and it's your turn to go out and take the pup.
Shoveling snow, I'd rather a boulder would fall on my toe. I'm just laying down with no sign of a frown, and my mother calls me, dear.
It's starting to snow, and it's your turn to go out there and get the walks cleared.
Shoveling snow, I'd rather leave that job to the Eskimos. I'm trying to read a good book on a deed, and my sister says to me, boy.
It's starting to snow, and it's your turn to go outside and shovel with joy.
Shoveling snow, I'd rather be eaten by a buffalo. I'm getting all lazy, and things become hazy, and my brother says, hey, Mac.
It's starting to snow, and it's your turn to go out there and shovel it back.
Shoveling snow, I'd rather be sentenced to Kokomo. I get up and go clear out the snow, and it falls on me softly like feathers.
It covers the scene, and it looks so serene. I decided it's the nicest of weathers.
Shoveling snow, I can't think of anything I'd rather do.
Good evening from KIBC 1611 on your dial. This is Elijah Newbern with Beth Ann Freeman, and welcome to our new listeners that have just joined us and to our studio audience that have come into the radio station studio for our Christmas Eve special, an old-fashioned radio theater and variety hour. Our caroling snowmen are sponsored by the good people at Lysol, needful in every home during this season of get-togethers.
When a cloud bursts and fresh, clean rain falls on a grove of rich green pines, it's so nice. And now that same clean scent of pine is in new pine-scented Lysol.
Right. Now, the one and only genuine Lysol brand disinfectant comes in a brand new pine scent. It disinfects and deodorizes as nothing else does. It kills diseases and germs on contact. In laboratory tests, Lysol's anti-germ action kept working for 7 full days. A bottle costs as little as 29 cents, and it's so easy to use. Just add new pine-scented Lysol to your suds when you clean in bathroom, kitchen, nursery, sick room. Use pine-scented Lysol because Lysol deep cleans. So make your home
Pine scent and Lysol clean.
You can still get regular Lysol too.
And now it's time for another chapter in the life of Archie Andrews. We invite you now to join Archie and his pals Jughead, Veronica, and Betty in another comic adventure from Riverdale. Today's episode will begin in just a few moments.
Tender beef, juicy pork, known from the West Coast to New York. Swift's Premium Franks, Swift's Premium Franks.
For your guarantee of protection, Swift's Premium Franks now come to you, cellophane wrapped in handy 1-pound packages, made fresh daily in Swift kitchens from coast to coast. Swift's Premium Franks are then wrapped in the new, handy, sanitary, Flavor Saver pack and brought to you at the very peak of their tantalizing flavor with all their natural goodness sealed in. So kids, tell your mom that you want Swift's Premium Franks, and Mom, get some today. They're delicious, and you'll be glad to know that Swift's Premium Franks are economical. There's no waste to them. Every bite is all nourishment, all dinner quality meat. Ask for them today. Swift's Premium Franks in the 1-pound cellophane package. And now for our weekly visit to Riverdale. It's Saturday afternoon as we look in on the Andrews home. And at the moment, we find Mr. Andrews alone in the living room, sitting in his favorite armchair, reading the newspaper.
had to be more mannerly. If he had asked someone to pass the cake to him, he replied, "Oh, Mommy, what does manners get you?" Every time Daddy gets polite on the train or bus, it cost him his seat.
Fred,
Yes, dear.
the telephone's ringing.
I hear it.
Well, answer it, dear.
Well, Mary, I'm reading
Fred!
Yes, dear, I'll answer it. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Andrews?
Yes, dear.
This is Veronica. Is Archie home?
Yes. Hello, Veronica. Yes, Archie's home. Did you want to talk to him?
No, I don't.
All right, I'll call him. No, you don't.
That's right. I'd rather you just gave him a message for me.
Oh, of course, Veronica. What is it?
Well, Archie was supposed to come over this afternoon at 3 o'clock.
Yes.
But ask him to make it 4 o'clock instead.
4 o'clock instead.
I'm going down to Stacy's department store to do some Christmas shopping this afternoon, and this is about the last chance I'll have.
All right, Veronica, I'll tell him.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Oh, but don't tell him I'm going shopping. You see, it's for his present. Just tell him the part about changing our date from 3 to 4.
All right, Veronica, I'll tell him.
Thanks ever so much, Mr. Andrews. Bye.
Bye. By George, it's a good thing Veronica called. I'd forgotten all about Christmas shopping. I still don't have anything for Mary or Archie. I'd better get my hat and get down to Stacy's right now, this last chance I'll have.
Fred!
Fine.
Fred!
Yes, dear.
Doorbell's ringing.
I hear it, dear. I hear it.
Oh, all right, dear.
All right, dear, all right. I never have a chance to. Oh, good grief, Jughead.
Well, who do you expect? Jersey Joe Walcott?
No, Jughead, I don't want to fight with you either. I'm in a hurry.
Oh, hiya, Jug. What are you doing here?
Oh, hi, Archie. I came over to see what you're doing.
Well, I was just...
Oh, Archie, Veronica just called.
She did?
Yes, Archie, she said...
I never heard the phone ring.
Well, it rang, and Veronica said...
Well, why didn't you tell me?
Archie?
Yes, Dad?
You want to know what Veronica said?
Well, sure, Dad, sure.
Then be quiet and I'll tell you.
Okay, Dad, okay.
She said she said to change your appointment with her from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock.
From 3 to 4?
Yes, an hour later.
I wonder why.
Well, she said had some things to attend to, and I'm going out. I'll see you later.
Yeah, okay, Dad. Goodbye.
Bye, Mr. Andrews.
That's great.
Huh?
Now that Veronica's made our date an hour later, I have time to get my Christmas shopping
But
done. This is practically the last chance I'll have. It's a good thing I thought of it.
But I want...
I haven't bought a thing for anyone yet.
Including me?
Including you.
Archie, it's time you did your Christmas shopping.
That's right, Jug. Come on, we'll go right down to Stacy's.
Well, what are you going to get me, huh?
Jug, you'll just have to...
Fred! Telephone's ringing. Fred! Fred! Fred, can't you answer when I call? I think that... Well, that's funny. He's gone. Oh, for pity's sakes. Hello?
Hello, Mrs. Andrews. This is Betty.
Oh, hello, dear. How are you?
Fine, thanks, Mrs. Andrews. Is Archie home?
Yes, dear. I think he's upstairs. Oh, Archie! Archie! That's funny. He must have gone out, too. I wish people would tell me when they're going out. Hello, Betty.
Yes, Mrs. Andrews.
Archie doesn't seem to be home, dear.
Oh, he isn't?
No, dear. And, Betty, I just have to cut you short, but I must run now. I'm just leaving to do my Christmas shopping.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that, Mrs. Andrews. I haven't done my shopping yet either.
Oh, you haven't? Well, would you like to go with me, dear?
Oh, I'd love to, Mrs. Andrews.
All right, I'll pick you up right away, and we'll go down to Stacy's.
Archie, I never saw such crowds.
Yes, Jughead, but when we got in that elevator and everyone started pushing, you didn't have to push back.
Listen, Archie, in that crowd, even a sardine would have pushed back.
Well, never mind. We're here now, and the first thing I want to buy is a compact for Veronica. I wonder where the cosmetic department is.
Cosmetic department?
Yeah.
Archie, let's go up to the toy department first.
Jug, I told you, we'll go up to the toy department later. Now, come on, I'll ask that floor walker where the cosmetic department is.
Killer Diller, okay.
Oh, mister?
Yes?
Could you tell me where the cosmetic department is, please?
Yeah, counter 7.
Thank you. Come on, Jug.
Where is it?
Counter 7.
Where's that?
I don't know. Oh, mister?
Yes?
Where is counter 7?
On the north side of counter 6.
Oh, thank you. I'll just... mister?
Well, what now?
Well, which way is north?
Oh, my Lance. Sonny, you see the boys' clothing department right there?
Yes?
We'll go right down the aisle to where the dummies are and turn right.
Oh, okay, mister. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Yes, madam. Can I help you?
Where do you say it is, Archie?
Right down at the next aisle. Jug, come on.
Oh, okay.
And boy, he's sure not a friendly floor walker.
Well, maybe his wife beats him.
I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, what was that?
You bumped into that dummy.
Oh, Killer Diller, I knocked the hat off. For a minute, I thought that dummy was a real person. Wait a second, Jug, while I put the hat back on.
Okay.
And if that floor walker ever seen me fooling around with this dummy, he'd probably throw us out of the store or something.
Don't flip your wig.
What's the matter?
There's Veronica.
Veronica, I don't want her to see me here.
She's coming right toward us.
Oh boy, Jug, I'm gonna be a dummy.
What?
I'm gonna climb up on this platform with the rest of these dummies, and I'll wear this hat.
But Archie, you can't do that.
Oh, Jug, don't argue. Here, how do I look?
Well, you're the most natural-looking dummy I ever saw.
Don't be funny, Jug, and put the price tag on me quick.
Okay, here you go.
Attaboy. Now remember, don't give me away no matter what happens.
Well, okay, but shh.
Why, Jughead!
Oh, hi, Veronica.
What y'all doing here?
Just a little shopping.
Oh, I am too. Thank goodness I have most of it done.
Oh, that's good.
Only thing I still have to get is a gift for Archie.
Archie?
Uh-huh. I don't know what to get him. He's such a problem.
Yeah, he sure is.
I can't get him a book or anything, because he's not the intelligent type.
Yeah.
I can't get him a baseball glove or anything, because he's not much of an athlete. I can't get him a tie or anything, because he just doesn't know anything about style. In fact, sometimes I think Archie's an awful dummy. But then again, with prices being what they are, there isn't very much you can get for $1. Did you say something, Jughead?
Me? Not a word, Veronica. Not a word.
Oh. Well, I better get more shopping done. Would you like to come along?
Oh, no, Veronica, I can't. I'm meeting someone here in a minute.
Oh. Well, I'll run along then. Bye, Jughead.
Bye, Veronica. Bye. Okay, dummy, you can relax now.
A fine thing, Jughead. Help me down off this platform.
Not now.
Huh?
Here comes the floor walker.
Oh boy, I better be a dummy some more.
Yes, madam. Why, certainly, madam. You can return it at any time, madam. Yes. Oh, me, never have I seen such a rush. Never in all my... Land's sake! Who put that dummy here?
Oh, boy.
If that isn't the silliest looking dummy I've ever seen. I don't know why the stockroom can't send me one that looks at least half alive. I've never seen one with such an insipid expression and such a ridiculous posture.
Mister?
Yes?
I'm not really a dummy.
That makes absolutely no difference. They still Oh, good heavens, you're alive.
Uh-huh.
Oh, for pity's sake, young man, come down off there.
Yes, sir.
Well, just what were you doing on that platform? Looking like a dummy?
Well, that's a long story, sir. You see,
Oh, good heavens, young man. Will you do me a favor?
Yes, sir?
As soon as you've paid for that jacket, leave the store.
Huh?
I said, as soon as you finish buying that jacket.
This jacket?
Yes, the jacket with the price tag on it. You're buying it, aren't you?
But this is my jacket.
Your jacket? Do you have the sales slip?
Well, no. I bought it here last year.
And you haven't removed the price tag yet?
Remove the price? Oh, mister, you don't understand.
Young man, I understand perfectly. The price is $14.95, and I want it right now.
Oh, but mister...
Now, I said.
But you don't understand. This is my own jacket. No fooling. Jughead, tell the man this is my own jacket. And Jughead?
Young man, are you calling me names?
Oh, no, sir. I was talking to my friend.
What friend?
Well, that's just it. He was here a minute ago. I bet he went up to the toy department. Mister, if you just come up to the toy department, we can find my friend, and he'll tell you that.
Young man, I'm not going to the toy department with you or anywhere else until I have the $14.95 for that jacket.
But that's all the money I have, and I just... Oh, wait a minute.
I beg pardon?
I know. Mister, if I pay you for this jacket and you give me a sales slip, then I can take it over to the exchange department and get my money back, couldn't I?
Well, yes, if you liked.
Oh, well, in that case, it's all right. I haven't had anything to worry about. Here's the money.
Ah, thank you. And here's your sales slip.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Good day, sir.
Good day. Guess I fooled him. Yes, sir, it's a good thing I think fast. For a minute there, it looked like I wouldn't have any Christmas money, but now all I have to do is take this coat and go to the exchange counter and give him this jacket, and then I'll just... killer diller, if I do, I won't have any jacket left. Oh boy, how do I get into these things?
Well, now, let's see. First thing I better do is get that bottle of perfume from Mary. Here's the perfume counter. Right here. Let's see now. What kind should I get her? Well, they certainly have quite an assortment. Chase Me, $25. Hide and Seek, $32. Wallflower No More, $40? I never smelled anything worth that kind of money. Oh, here's another one. Evening in Riverdale, $10. Well, that's a little better. I think Mary likes this perfume. That's just what I'll get her. Oh, miss, I'll take this bottle and...
What's buzzing, Mr. Andrews?
Well, Jughead, hello. What are you doing here?
Hello, Mr. Andrews. I'm looking for Archie.
I thought you were with Archie.
Well, I was, but he just...
Well, I'm trying to get one of these sales girls to wait on me here, but they're all so busy.
Uh-oh.
What's the matter?
There's Miss Andrews.
Mary, where?
Right over there.
Oh, good grief. If she sees me with this bottle of perfume, she'll know what I'm getting her for Christmas.
She's coming this way.
Yes, I know. I see. I'll just duck the bottle in my pocket. There, right in this pocket. Now, if she sees me...
Just a moment, please.
Huh?
I saw that.
Saw what? Oh, now, mister. Now, you don't understand. You don't understand at all.
Oh, I don't I?
No, you...
Did you or did you not just hide a bottle of perfume in your jacket?
Well, yes, but...
Have you paid for it?
Well, no,
Well,
but...
I don't know what you call it, but we call it shoplifting.
Yes, of course. Shoplifting? Oh, now, wait a minute, mister. I can explain the entire thing.
Well, I'm listening.
Well, you see, I've been trying to get one of the sales girls to wait on me, and I just saw my wife over there, and I hid the bottle just because I didn't want her to know what I'm getting her for Christmas.
And just where is your wife?
Well, she was right over there. Good heavens, she's gone.
Yeah, I thought so.
Oh, but she was right there. Jughead, tell the man how we saw my wife. Well, now, where did he go to?
Who?
Jughead. He was standing right here just a second ago. I don't know where he...
Mister.
Huh?
Do you imagine these things very often?
Imagine what?
Do you have any delusions?
But I...
Dizzy spells?
Oh, but I...
You see spots before your very eyes. Now keep calm, keep calm. There's no need to get excited. Just give me back the perfume and we'll forget the whole thing and you can go right home and lie down.
Lie down? But who wants to lie down?
The perfume, please.
Yes, sir. I have it right here. My,
Something wrong.
It leaked.
What leaked?
Perfume bottle. It leaked all over my pocket. See, it's half empty.
For land's sake, now you'll have to pay for it.
What?
That's right. I was going to forget the whole incident, but I can't return a damaged bottle to the counter.
Well, I'm certainly not going to pay for a leaky bottle of perfume.
Mister, if you're not satisfied with the item, you can take it to the exchange department. But it must be paid for.
But...
I said it must.
Oh, me. You win. I'll go to the exchange department, but how I get myself into these things, I'll never know.
Which bathrobe do you like best, Betty?
The dark blue one, I think.
I do too. Blue is Aunt Hattie's favorite color.
Oh, but is it her size, Mrs. Andrews?
Well, there's only one way to tell, Betty. I'll have to try it on.
Try it on.
Uh-huh. I wear the same size as Aunt Hattie, and if it fits me, it'll fit her. Here, hold my coat, dear, while I step into this dressing room and put the bathrobe on.
Oh, all right, Mrs. Andrews.
It'll just take me a second, dear. I'd hate to go to all the trouble of buying this and sending it to Aunt Hattie and then not having it fit.
Uh-huh.
Then I would have to return it for her since she lives out of town. Oh, dear.
What is it?
There's no hanger in here for my dress.
Oh, well, hand it to me, Mrs. Andrews. I'll hold it.
All right, dear. Here you are.
I have it.
Oh, thank you, dear. I'll have this robe on in just a minute. There. How does it look, Betty?
It looks a little big to me.
It does? Well, I better take a look in the mirror. Oh, Betty, you don't have to hold my coat and dress like that. Just put them on that empty rack.
Oh, all right, Mrs. Andrews.
Now, let's see. Oh, it is a little big.
Yes, it is.
I'll have to ask the sales girl if she can find a smaller size. You wait here, Betty. Miss, do you have a...
Betty!
Jughead, what are you doing here?
I was looking for Archie.
Archie, is he here?
Well, I think so. We came here together, but we got separated.
Where'd you see him last?
On the dummy platform.
What?
Well, you see, he was being a dummy.
What?
A dummy, you know, the one that looks like this?
Jug, what are you trying to talk about?
Excuse me, miss, I gotta move this rack.
What? Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, Mo, get the other end there.
Yeah, I got it.
Easy now.
Yeah, I got
right
it.
there. Pull it off around there.
Jughead, what are you trying to tell me about Archie?
Betty, it's an awful long story. All I want to know is, have you seen him?
No, I haven't.
Then I better keep looking. He may be in trouble.
What kind of trouble?
I can't tell you now, Betty. See you later. Bye.
But Jug, wait, Jug. That Jughead, he's the strangest person.
Betty, how do you like this bathrobe?
Oh, that's fine, Mrs. Andrews, but I just...
This size does fit much better, doesn't it, dear?
Yes, Mrs. Andrews, but I just...
Betty, what happened to it?
What happened to what?
The rack.
What rack?
The rack you put my dress on?
I don't know.
But my dress and coat were on that rack.
It was here a minute ago.
My dress. Oh, Betty, what will I do?
Something wrong, madam.
Yes, I've lost my dress.
I beg your pardon.
My dress. We put it down here for a minute while I tried on this bathrobe, and now it's gone.
The bathroom.
No, the dress.
But it couldn't be.
But it is. Isn't it, Betty?
Oh, yes, indeed, Mrs. Andrews.
Oh, my land. I've never seen such a day. Living dummies, men hiding from their wives, and now this woman loses her dress.
But I tell you, it was right under my nose.
I should certainly hope so.
Well, do something.
Madam, what can I do about your dress?
Find it.
And now, madam, please, be calm. Be calm. It was probably taken by mistake, and it'll be turned into the lost and found department.
Well, where is that?
At the other end of the floor, next to the exchange department.
Come on, Betty.
Madam, where are you going?
To the lost and found department?
But, madam, certainly not in our bathrobe.
Well, certainly not without it. Come on, Betty, we'll go see if they have my dress. How these things happen to me, I'll never know.
Archie.
Yes, Jug?
Now can I tell you who I met?
Yes, Jug.
Well, first I ran into...
Archie, what in tarnation are you doing here?
Killer Diller, Dad, where'd you come from?
Never mind where I came from. What, Archie? What are you doing standing in your shirt sleeves?
Well, Dad, I can explain. You see, I came over...
Fred Andrews, what are you doing here?
Meg, what are you doing in their bathrobe?
Oh, it's not my bathrobe.
What?
It's... Fred Andrews, you smell.
What?
You positively reek of perfume.
Oh.
Now, who?
Yes, I do, don't I? Well, you see, dear,
Archie Andrews, what are you doing here?
Veronica?
Jughead, why didn't you tell me Archie was here?
Well, Veronica, I was.
What seems to be the trouble here?
Oh, the floor walker. Mister, I'm trying to find out why my son is standing in his shirt sleeves and...
Well, please, there's no need to get...
And I want to know why you smell of perfume.
Lady,
And what are you doing in that bathrobe?
Mister, please don't.
And I'm trying to exchange my own coat.
Sonny, if you could just...
So, when did you get here, Archie?
Why are you all so excited?
Just please, calm down.
Archie, Mary, quiet, quiet, quiet. That's better. Now listen to me, all of you. This nonsense is going on far enough. Too far, in fact.
Yes, Mr. Andrews.
Yes, dear.
It certainly has.
But
all afternoon, you people have been making my life quite miserable. Quite miserable.
Yes, sir.
Now, if there's any reason for it, I feel I'm entitled to an explanation.
Well, mister, you know the coat, the one you thought I was buying?
Yes.
Well, my mother and father and Jughead and Veronica can all identify it as my old coat.
Why, of course that's Archie's coat.
My goodness, yes.
I know that's his coat.
Oh, dear. You mean it really is?
Yes, and maybe you'll recall you didn't believe my wife was in this store when I had the perfume bottle in my pocket.
Well, yes, but I...
Well, this is my wife.
Oh, well, how do you do? I'm very sorry.
And I just found out that 2 of your men moved an empty rack while I was talking to Jughead here. Didn't they, Jughead?
Sure they did.
And that was the rack that had my dressing coat on it.
Well, Mr. Floorwalker, what do you say to that?
Yeah, what do you say to that?
People, please, please, no tempers, please. The customer is always right at J. Alfred Stacy's. We'll make amends. I promise we will make amends.
Huh.
Mistakes will happen, you know.
Huh.
Young man, since that does seem to be your own coat, you may keep it, and I'll give you a cash credit slip for what you paid me.
Thank you.
And you, sir.
Yes?
I'll be glad to give you another bottle of perfume. Compliments of the store.
Well, that's better.
And madam?
Yes?
I'm sure we can find your dressing coat in the lost and found department, and you may keep the bathrobe at no charge.
Well, thank you.
I'm here too.
Jug, shut up.
Well, people, does that satisfy you?
Well, yes, I think that straightens everything out all right. I'm sorry there's been so much misunderstanding.
It's quite all right.
And now, folks, if everything's settled, let's stop hiding from each other and get this Christmas shopping over and done with, once and for all.
Yes, Mr. Andrews.
Yes, dear.
Yes, Dad.
All right, now What was that?
5 o'clock, thank heavens. Store's closing, folks. Y'all have to come back Monday.
Come back? You mean we've got to go through all this again?
No way I'm doing any of this.
Tender beef, juicy pork, known from the West Coast to New York. Swift's Premium Franks, Swift's Premium Franks.
Friends, you really know what you're getting when you ask for Swift's Premium Franks. Made fresh daily in Swift's kitchens from coast to coast, so you know they're fresh. Made by Swift, so you know they're top quality. Ask for them today. Swift's Premium Franks in the new handy 1-pound cellophane package. And while you're at your dealers, be sure to ask for Swift's Brookfield sausage, the sausage with the just right seasoning. And don't forget, your dealer has a tempting variety of Swift's premium table-ready meats. Tasty cooked specialty is being featured this week. A delicious luncheon meat, Swift's premium cooked specialty is all meat. No bones, no waste. An economical, flavorful meat that the whole family will enjoy. Swift's premium cooked specialty is just the thing for family holiday lunches and snacks. For a meal in a flash that saves plenty of cash, get Swift's premium table-ready meats. You've been listening to another chapter in the adventures of Archie Andrews, written by Carl Jampel and based on the copyrighted characters appearing in Archie Comics magazine. Archie was played by Tyler Brown, Jughead by Abel Newbern. Mom and Dad Andrews are played by Roxana McElwain and Randy Newbern. Veronica and Betty are portrayed by Evelyn McClellan and Joanna Grant. Also in today's cast, Matthew Grant. Sound effects by Mike Thompson, directed by Vicki Thompson.
Frosty the snowman, with a jolly happy soul, with a corn cob pipe and a button nose and 2 eyes made out of coal.
Frosty the
Snowman was a fairy tale, they say. He was made of snow, but the children know how he came to life that catch me if you can. He led them down the streets of town right to the traffic cop, and only paused a moment when he heard him holler, stop. Frosty the snowman was only on his way, but he waved goodbye saying, don't you cry, I'll be back again someday.
Wow, our snowman looks great. Let's name him Kirby. Here's some coal. I'll make his mouth with it.
No way! Make my mouth out of jelly beans.
Kirby can talk.
I'm cold. Get me a nice wool coat.
You look really nice, Kirby.
See? Bring me a motorcycle helmet. Does your dad have a green silk tie?
I'll have to go and look.
Hurry up. See if you can find some mittens, too.
The snowman is driving me crazy. I can't find a helmet, but here's a birthday hat.
Well, okay. Put it on me.
I found everything you want. We have to go to lunch.
I'm hungry, too. I'll have a peanut butter, jello, and green bean sandwich. Hurry! The sun is coming out.
Kirby sure is crabby. Why is he always in such a rush?
1 hour later, Judy and Robert returned. By then, the sun had warmed my surroundings.
Kirby's gone. Just his clothes are left. Maybe he had found out that we made him a tuna sandwich. Then he ran away. Boy, after everything we did for him, some friend. Let's make a snow lady tomorrow.
Before we hear Robbie's Christmas story, let's look in at our favorite local meeting place, Hank's House of Hot Chocolate.
Hi, Joe. Hi. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, morning.
Good morning, sir, and welcome to Hank's House of Hot Chocolate. Can I interest you in our strawberry bagel special?
No, thank you. I'll just have a cup of hot cocoa.
No problem. What type?
Excuse me?
What type of hot chocolate would you like?
Just hot chocolate?
Well, we have Peruvian, Mongolian, Chilean, Icelandic, Indian.
Just give me some hot chocolate, please.
You can't have standard hot chocolate. You have to have a type.
Well, what do you recommend?
I prefer the Mongolian myself. It has a nice spicy flavor to it, but there's also the Costa Rican, which is more bitter, and the Colombian, which is strong.
The Colombian then. I like my cocoa strong.
The Icelandic is strongest.
They grow cocoa beans in Iceland?
Oh, yes, sir. It's very strong.
All right, I'll have that then.
Very good. Now, what kind of marshmallows?
What?
We have fluffy, puffy, mini, squishy, mushy, with mint, without mint.
Fluffy, just fluffy.
Cup.
Huh?
Paper, plastic, styrofoam, handle, no handle.
Paper, please.
Now, what kind of straw do you want?
Straw? I don't drink hot cocoa with a straw.
Don't drink hot chocolate with a straw? What kind of person doesn't drink hot chocolate with a straw?
This one.
But then you get those hideous chocolate mustaches.
All right, fine, I'll have a straw.
Long, short, wide, normal, narrow.
Normal.
With the crooked neck or without?
Without.
Curly Q or straight?
Straight.
Okay.
Finally.
And what kind of cup warmer would you like with that?
You know what? Just forget it. Forget it. I'll just have a plain old glass of milk.
Okay, will that be whole milk, soy milk, skim milk, 1%, 2% goat's milk? Sir, are you okay? Can I get you a glass of water?
Sounds like Hank's might have lost one customer there, but stop in and see Jo and she'll fix you right up with your choice of hot chocolate. And now,
Red-Headed Robbie's Christmas Story by Bill Luttrell.
Early Monday morning, Mrs. Wallace stood in front of her second grade class and reached into the hat that was sitting on her desk. She pulled out a piece of paper and held it high. She said,
"In my hand is the name of a lucky second grader. This child will get to make up a Christmas story and tell it to the Christmas assembly this Friday."
Choose me, bellowed Big Eddie, the boy whose dad owned the toy store.
Choose me, commented Cool Katie, the coolest girl in class.
Choose me,
Mumbled Munching Max, the kid who was always eating.
Bogglebreechy,
replied red-headed Robbie.
Mrs. Wallace frowned. Robbie could feel his face turning red, and he dropped his head to his desk. He had done it again. Robbie meant to say,
don't choose me.
But instead,
Bogglebreechy
came out.
Red-headed Robbie spoke perfectly fine when talking to her parents or her friends. But whenever Robbie felt nervous or excited or upset, the first words that jumped from her lips usually made no sense.
Robbie's garbled words were funny, but her classmates never laughed. They liked Robbie. She shared her lunch treats. She didn't hog the swing. In fact, when Robbie misspoke, the kids usually covered up for her.
Big Eddie said,
Red-headed Robbie didn't mean that, Miss Wallace. She's just nervous.
Mrs. Wallace read from the slip of paper.
The winner is Robbie.
Oh no, said Big Eddie.
It can't be so,
said Cool Katie.
Bad show,
said Munching Max.
Pupperfro,
said red-headed Robbie.
That night, Robbie felt sick to her stomach. How could she make up a story and tell it to the Christmas assembly without saying something silly?
Robbie wrote a fairy tale about a snowflake that landed on a fruitcake and thought it was a raisin. The story was lame, and Robbie knew it.
The next day after school, Robbie visited Big Eddie at his father's toy store. Robbie found him spinning around in his father's desk chair.
How's the story going, red-headed Robbie?
I need help,
said Robbie. Eddie said,
Make up a story about a boy who gets so many presents, it takes him 2 days to open them all.
But Christmas isn't about getting presents. It's a time we give gifts to the people who have less than us.
Eddie stopped spinning in the chair.
I never thought about Christmas that way. Sorry I didn't help with your story.
The next day after school, Robbie visited Cool Katie at her house. She found her at her desk talking on the phone.
How's the story going, red-headed Robbie?
I need help.
Make up a story about a cool girl who throws a cool Christmas party.
But Christmas isn't a time for being cool. It's a time for being nice to someone new. Maybe someone who is shy.
Katie put down the phone.
I never thought about Christmas that way. Sorry I didn't help.
The next day after school, Robbie visited Munching Max. He found Max in his bedroom, staring at a box of broken candy canes.
How's the story going, red-headed Robbie?
I need help.
Make up a story about a kid who was mad at his little sister for breaking his candy canes. He hides their Christmas presents as payback.
But Christmas isn't a time for paybacks. It's a time to forgive.
Max put down the broken candy canes.
Never thought about Christmas that way. Sorry I didn't help.
The next morning, the students and parents gathered in the auditorium for the Christmas assembly.
The 5th grade performed a Christmas play that they had written. Only a few times did their wigs fall off their heads.
A 4th grader played a Christmas song he had composed on the guitar. Only a few times did he drop his guitar.
A 3rd grader danced a Christmas dance she had choreographed. Only a few times did she tumble to the floor.
When the time came for the 2nd grade performance, Miss Wallace said,
Robbie will now tell us her Christmas story.
Robbie stood before the assembly. In her hand was the story she had written about the snowflake that thought it was a raisin. Her stomach felt like it was filled with hot candle wax.
Robbie took a deep breath and started to tell her tale.
Robbie Raisin,
she said. Robbie's face flushed burning red. A couple of 1st graders giggled. Robbie tried again to talk.
Gleepin, glop and glope,
she said. A couple of 5th graders whispered to each other. Again, Robbie tried to speak.
Shamina, Mina Flinket,
she said. A couple of 4th graders pointed at Robbie.
Her story was a disaster. Robbie felt ready to burst into tears, and she put her hands over her eyes.
Suddenly, Big Eddie left his seat and walked to the stage. He stood next to Robbie and put his arm around her.
Red-headed Robbie knows the Christmas story. It's about a boy who thought that Christmas meant one thing, getting presents. Then a little angel with red hair visited that boy. The angel told him that Christmas is a time for giving to people who don't have much. After the angel left, the boy asked his parents to give some of his presents to the kids at the homeless shelter. That's Red-Headed Robbie's Christmas story.
Cool Katie left her seat. She stood next to Robbie and held her hand.
Red-headed Robbie knows a Christmas story of a girl who thought only about being cool. But then a little angel with red hair visited that girl. The angel told her that Christmas is a time for being nice to someone new, maybe someone who is shy. After the angel left, the girl visited a shy girl and played with her. That's Red-headed Robbie's Christmas story.
Munching Max got up from his seat. He stood next to Robbie and slid a candy cane into Robbie's pocket.
Red-Headed Robbie knows a story. It's about a kid who wanted to hide his little sister's Christmas presents as payback for breaking his candy canes. Then a little girl with red hair visited this boy. Told him Christmas isn't a time to pay back, but a time to forgive. After the angel left, the kid forgave his little sister and took her sledding. That's Red-Headed Robbie's Christmas story.
The assembly stood and clapped. They didn't stop until Miss Wallace stood next to Robbie and asked for quiet. She wiped away a tear and said,
Thank you, Robbie, for your wonderful Christmas stories. Let each person here follow Robbie's advice. Give before you take, show kindness to someone new, and forgive a person who has hurt you.
Mrs. Wallace looked at Robbie.
Did I forget to say anything?
Flurry Flickmas to all.
A bit of humor with a reminder to us all that Christmas should bring out the best in each other. Read by Victoria Grant as Red-Headed Robbie and supported by Pam McClellan, Andrew Grant, Elijah Newbern, Victoria Noel, and narrators Deanna Noel, Shelby Noel, Virginia Noel, Ethan Newbern, and myself. You know, being at our best can be hard if you're suffering during this year's cold and flu season.
Nobody can act up to par with a nasty cold. I checked my cold distress the fast way with 4-way cold tablets.
Yes, tests prove that 4-way cold tablets are the fastest acting tablets of all. Amazing 4-way starts in minutes. Relieves aches, pains, headache, reduces fever, calm upset stomach, also overcomes irregularity.
4-way is the fast way to relieve those cold miseries. Then you feel better quickly.
4-way cold tablets, only 29 and 59 cents.
Here's a word about another fine product of Grove Laboratories. Yes, you can get rid of embarrassing dandruff, while you improve the appearance of your hair with Fitch Dandruff Remover Shampoo. Its special dandruff removing lather reaches right down to the scalp, gently and thoroughly. It's so effective, it's guaranteed to remove itchy dandruff with just one lathering. And yet, Fitch can brighten your hair and actually make it as much as 35% brighter. See shining highlights you didn't even know were there. For remember this about Fitch shampoo, it positively removes dandruff as it definitely acts to brighten your hair. Use it regularly.
Thank you to our sponsors, and now back to our carolers.
It had been snowing all day, and all the children in the neighborhood were busy building the beautiful snowman.
When they finished, they named him Bob. They put a broomstick in his hand and an old hat on his head.
Bob was happy. He liked everything, especially the children who were having so much fun around him.
When it got dark, the children went home. Bob was all lonely.
Suddenly, a bird appeared. He sat on a tree and shook his wings.
Brr! He said,
It's too cold here. I'm on my way south, and all my friends have left already. And I'm late. In the south, we'll eat fruit off the trees and sing beautiful songs.
So then he stretched his wings and flew off into the dark night.
All night long, Bob thought about what the bird had told him. He dreamt about this beautiful faraway country.
He imagined himself on a beach, standing under a palm tree with a snow woman at his side.
With his broom, he would wave to the passing boats. He liked that idea.
Suddenly, Bob decided to go south too.
At dawn, Bob walked to the train station, he thought of the children, and he felt sad. Then they would miss him.
As he walked, he began to sweat. His carrot nose began to quiver, and his hat slipped down on his head.
The train was already waiting when Bob arrived at the station. He saw a lot of people getting on and off the train, but he didn't see any other snowmen.
Then a voice shouted,
"All aboard!"
So Bob climbed under the luggage car and the door was shut.
Inside it was dark and scary. Bob couldn't see anything. The only sounds was the clackety-clack of the wheels.
Then Bob started getting warmer and warmer. He was sweating a lot. Bob became smaller and smaller.
Suddenly, his hat slipped off his head. Then he lost an eye. Then his carrot nose.
Bob was worried. He was getting so small that you could hardly see him.
By the time the train arrived in the south, Bob had turned into a puddle.
Oh dear, Bob thought. Now that I'm a puddle, what will happen to me?
Sunbeams called to him.
Come on, climb up.
So drop by drop, Bob climbed up into the sky, where he turned into a soft white cloud.
Then a strong wind blew Bob and the other clouds over the land. It was a beautiful flight.
Exactly above the children's neighborhood, Bob came to a rest. As it grew colder, Bob turned in a snowflake.
Hooray, it's snowing!
Cried the children.
Let's build a new Bob!
And they built a beautiful new snowman. Now Bob could laugh again. He was happy to be back and to be a snowman once more.
He never wanted to travel again. The next morning, the children were very glad to see that Bob was still there. And they built a whole family for him.
Only Bob knew that one day Snow Family would all become puddles again.
But he was not sad.
He knew they would all climb into the clouds and wait for the next winter.
Now, we invite our studio audience to stand, stretch, and join us in Jingle Bells.
Dashing
Through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh, o'er the hills we go, laughing all the way. Bells on bobtails ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. A day or two ago, I thought I'd take a ride, and soon Miss Fanny Bright was sitting by my side. The horse was lean and lame, misfortune seemed his lot. He got into a drifted bank and then we got upside. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Now the ground is wide, go it while you're young. Take the girls tonight and sing this sleighing song. Just get a bobtail bay, 240 at his speed. Hitch him to an open sleigh and crack, you'll take the lead. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
Thank you, carolers. That was Wade and Zane James, Ella and Aleo Romero, Elijah McElwain, and Victoria Noel directing. This next portion of our Christmas Eve radio theater and variety hour, the O. Henry classic, The Gift of the Magi, played by Victoria and William Noel, and a supporting cast is brought to you by Appliance Hardware.
What's better to receive at Christmas, and even better to give? An appliance that does something for you every day of the year.
Like a toaster, an iron,
Or a radio.
Name it, you'll find it here. We're headquarters for appliances. We can help you bring good cheer.
Scene 1, New York City, 2 days before Christmas, 1900. Della and Jim are a young married couple living in New York City.
What a splendid walk that was.
Indeed it was, Della. Central Park at Christmas time is always so delightful.
What shall we do now?
Let's walk down to Broadway and we can window shop.
But we haven't any money.
It costs nothing to look. Besides, we can dream, can't we? Why, look here, look at these scarves.
Oh, wouldn't I be lovely wearing one of those?
Don't be silly. You're lovely just as you are.
And look at those combs. I've admired them forever. Pure tortoiseshell. Imagine how they look in my hair.
Della, your hair is already so long and beautiful. Look, it's almost to your knees.
Do you really think it's beautiful, Jim?
I may be poor, Della, but I'm the luckiest man in all of New York.
Scene 2, the next morning, Jim and Della's apartment. Jim and Della live in a shabby little one-room apartment. But Jim does have one possession he is proud of, his pocket watch.
I must be off to work.
Don't be home late, Jim.
I'll put in my time and nothing more.
You look so sophisticated when you glance at your watch.
Do I? Even with this old leather strap I use in place of a chain?
Who's to notice the strap when such a handsome man is holding such a glorious watch?
Jim leaves for his office. On the way out, he waves to the janitor, Sidney.
Good morning, Mr. Young. Off to work, are you?
I mustn't be late for work, Sidney.
No, sir. That's quite a watch.
It was my grandfather's. Keeps perfect time.
It's quite remarkable.
Sidney, about my mailbox.
It says on it, Mr. James Dillingham Young. Just like you asked.
That's just it. Perhaps it would be best if it said Mr. James D. Young.
Oh, no, sir. Dillingham sounds so distinguished.
Distinguished for a man who makes a mere $30 a week. Distinguished for a man who makes $30 a week, not for a man who makes a mere 20.
Another pay cut? Times are hard.
Yes, they are, Sidney. But whether $20 or $30 a week, I must be on time.
Scene 3, Jim and Della's apartment. Like Jim, Della has only one treasure, her long, beautiful hair. Della and her neighbor sit together at the kitchen table.
85, 86, $1.87. No matter how often I count it, Mrs. Porter, the amount never changes.
Of course not, dear, but a penny saved is a penny earned.
And how I've earned these pennies, Mrs. Porter. I've learned to drive a hard bargain. The grocer, the butcher, the milkman, I think they cringe when they see me coming. I'll take the worst cuts of meat to save a penny and the bruised fruit to save 2.
Don't you worry now, dear. Things will turn around for you, too. I just know it.
But it's Christmas Eve. $1.87. What can I buy my wonderful Jim with $1.87?
Now, don't cry, Della.
Just then, Della happens to glance in the mirror. She catches sight of her long, beautiful hair, rippling and shining like a cascade of water. She stands for a moment. A final tear splashes on the worn carpet.
I have it, Mrs. Porter.
Della's face grows pale as she quickly arranges her hair into a bun.
Oh, Della, you mustn't.
I must. For Jim. For Christmas.
On goes Della's old brown coat and old brown hat. And with a whirl of skirts and a brilliant sparkle still in her eye, she flutters out the door and down the stairs into the street. Scene 4, on Broadway. Moments later, Della arrives at Madame Sophie's hair goods of all kinds.
Will you buy my hair?
I do buy hair. Take off your hat and let's have a look at it.
Down ripples the brown cascade.
What could be so important that you'd sacrifice such lovely hair?
I'd sacrifice anything for my Jim. How much is it worth?
Your hair, $20.
I'll take it.
Her hair gone and $20 crumpled in her fist, Della rushes out onto the street.
Now for Jim's present.
For 2 hours, Della ransacks the stores, searching for that special something.
He needs a new overcoat, and every day he goes off to work without gloves to warm his hands. But his gift must be something precious, something worthy of the honor of being owned by Jim.
She soon spots just the thing.
May I help you?
Might I see that watch chain?
Why, certainly, miss. It's platinum. A fine chain, but very expensive.
It's so perfect for my husband. With a chain like this on his watch, he could check the time in anyone's company. How much is it?
$21.
I'll take it.
Scene 5, Jim and Della's apartment.
How bad is it, Mrs. Porter?
A pretty thing like you? You're adorable with or without your hair. We'll curl what's left of it. That's what we'll do. We'll curl it.
Within 40 minutes, Della's head is covered with tiny curls.
That's not so bad now, is it?
But when Della looks at her reflection in the mirror, she remains worried.
If Jim doesn't faint before he takes a second look, he'll say I look like a schoolboy, a boy.
Now.
But what could I do with $1.87?
I'll go now before Jim gets home.
Yes, you had better. He's never late.
Don't you worry. It'll be all right.
Oh, please let him think I'm still pretty.
A moment after Mrs. Porter leaves, Jim steps in. Seeing Della, he freezes. He says nothing. He merely stands there with a peculiar expression on his face.
Jim, darling, don't stare at me that way. I had my hair cut off and sold it because I couldn't have lived through Christmas without giving you a present. It'll grow back.
But Jim continues to stare at Della. He seems to be in a trance.
You don't mind, do you, Jim? My hair grows awfully fast. Jim, say something. You can't imagine what a wonderful gift I have for you.
You cut your hair.
And sold it. Don't you like me just as well anyhow? I'm still me without my hair, aren't I?
Jim looks around the room, curiously.
You say your hair is gone?
Don't look for it. It's gone. I did it for you.
Don't make any mistake, Della. I don't think there's anything in the way of a haircut that could make me love you any less. But if you'll unwrap this present, you'll see why you took me by surprise.
Della unwraps the gift and screams for joy, and then cries aloud. For there are the combs, the precious tortoiseshell combs she'd so long desired without the hope of ever having.
My hair does grow fast, Jim.
Jim has not yet seen his present. Della holds it out to him in her open palm.
Isn't it a dandy, Jim? Let's put it on your watch. I want to see how it looks.
Jim tumbles onto the sofa and begins to laugh.
Della, I sold my watch to get the money to buy those combs.
The Magi, as you know, were wise men. Wonderfully wise men who brought gifts to the babe in the manger. They invented the art of giving Christmas presents. And being wise, their gifts were no doubt wise ones, possibly bearing the privilege of exchange in case of duplication. And here I have lamely related to you the uneventful chronicle of two foolish children in a flat who most unwisely sacrificed for each other the greatest treasures of their house. But in a last word to the wise of these days, let it be said that of all who give gifts, these two were the wisest. Of all who give and receive gifts, such as they are wisest. Everywhere they're wisest. They are the Magi.
Christmas. The whole world celebrates Christmas. And today's sometimes hectic, confusing, and even scary times as we send off our young men to battle. It's good to pause and realize Christmas is for everyone and every nation. We dedicate this next portion of this evening to our military. The Christmas truce of 1914 is one of the most remarkable incidents of World War I, and perhaps of all military history. And before we do it, we have one more thing to conclude.
You forgot to
Now, to continue my story of the Christmas truce. The Christmas truce of 1914 is one of the most remarkable incidents of World War I and perhaps of all military history, starting in some places on Christmas Eve and in others on Christmas Day. The truce covered as much as 2/3 of the British-German front, with thousands of soldiers taking part. Perhaps most remarkably, it grew out of no single initiative, but sprang up in each place, spontaneously and independently. Nearly everything described here is drawn from first-hand accounts in letters and diaries of the time.
I heard the bells on Christmas Day. Their old familiar carols play, and wild and sweet the words repeat of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And thought how, as the day had come, the belfries of all Christendom had rolled along an unbroken song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Till ringing, singing on its way, the world revolved from night to day, a voice, a chime, a chant sublime of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then from each black accursed mouth the cannon thundered in the south, and with the sound the carols drowned of peace on earth, goodwill to men. It was as if an earthquake rent the hearthstones of a continent and made forlorn the households born of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And in despair I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said, for hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then pealed the bells more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men.
Christmas Day, 1914. Dear Mother.
My darling Meg.
My good friend, Charles.
My dear sister Janet. It is 2 o'clock in the morning, and most of our men are asleep in their dugouts.
Yet I could not sleep myself before writing to you of the wonderful events of Christmas Eve.
In truth, what happened seems almost like a fairy tale, and if I hadn't been through it myself, I would scarce believe it.
Just imagine, while you and the family sang carols before the fire there in London, I did the same with enemy soldiers here on the battlefields of France. As I wrote before, there has been little serious fighting of late. The first battles of war left so many dead, and both sides have held back until replacements could come from home. So we have mostly stayed in our trenches and waited.
But what a terrible waiting it has been, knowing that at any moment an artillery shell might land and explode beside us in the trench, killing or maiming several men, and in daylight not daring to lift our heads above ground for the fear of a sniper's bullet.
And the rain, it's fallen almost daily. Of course it collects right in our trenches, where we have to bail it out with pots and pans. And when the rain has come mud, a good foot or more deep.
It splatters and cakes everything, and it constantly sucks at our boots. One new recruit got his feet stuck in it, and then his hands too, and when he tried to get out, just like in that American story of the tar baby. Through all this, we couldn't help feeling curious about the German soldiers across the way. After all, they faced the same dangers we did, and slodged about in the same muck.
What's more, their first trench was only 50 yards from ours. Between us lay no man's land, bordered on both sides by barbed wire. Yet they were close enough we sometimes hear their voices.
Of course, we hated them whenever they killed our friends, but other times we joked about them and almost felt they had something in common.
And now, it seems they felt the same.
Just yesterday morning, Christmas Eve day, we had our first good freeze. Cold as we were, we welcomed it because at least the mud froze solid.
Everything was tinged white with frost, while a bright sun shone over all. Perfect Christmas weather.
During the day, there was little shelling or rifle fire from either side, and as darkness fell on our Christmas Eve, the shooting stopped entirely.
Our first complete silence in months. We hoped it might promise a peaceful holiday, but we didn't count on it. We'd been told the Germans might attack and try to catch us off guard.
I went to the dugout to rest, and lying on my cot, I must have drifted asleep. All at once, my friend was shaking me, saying, "Come and see what the Germans are doing." I grabbed my rifle, stumbled out into the trenches, stuck my head cautiously above the sandbags.
I hoped to never see a stranger and more lovely sight. Clusters of tiny lights were shining all along the German line, left and right as far as the eye could see.
"Well, what is it?" I asked in bewilderment. Then someone answered, "Why, it's Christmas trees."
And so it was. The Germans had placed Christmas trees in front of their trenches, lit by candle or lantern like beacons of goodwill.
And then we heard their voices raised in song, singing.
This carol may not yet be familiar to us in Britain, but one soldier knew it, and it translated, "Silent night, holy night." I've never heard one more lovelier or more meaningful, in that quiet, clear night. Its dark softened by a first quarter moon.
When the song finished, the men in our trenches started to applaud. Yes, British soldiers applauding the Germans.
Then one of our own men started singing, and we all joined in. The first Noel, the angels did say, was to certain poor shepherds in fields where they lay.
In truth, we sounded not nearly as good as the Germans with their fine harmonies, but they responded with enthusiastic applause of their own and began another.
Then we replied, singing,
"O come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant."
But this time they joined in, singing the same words in Latin.
Adeste Fidelis. British and German harmonizing across no man's land? I would have thought nothing could be more amazing. But what came next was more so.
"English, come over," we heard one of them shoot. "You know shoot, we know shoot."
There in the trenches we looked at each other in bewilderment. Then one of us shouted jokingly, "You come over here."
To our astonishment, we saw two figures rise from the trench. They climbed over the barbed wire and advanced unprotected across no man's land.
One of them called, "Send officer to talk."
I saw one of our men lift his rifle to the ready, and no doubt others did the same. But our captain called out, "Hold your fire!" Then he climbed out and went to meet the Germans halfway.
We heard them talking, and a few minutes later the captain came back with a German cigar in his mouth. "We've agreed. There will be no shooting before midnight tomorrow," he announced, "but sentries are to remain on duty and the rest of you stay alert."
Across the way, we could make out groups of 2 or 3 men starting out of the trenches and coming towards us.
Then some of us were climbing out too, and in minutes more, there we were in no man's land, over 100 soldiers and officers of each side, shaking hands with men we'd been trying to kill just hours earlier.
Before long, a bonfire was built, and around it we mingled, British khaki and German gray. I must say, the Germans were better dressed with fresh uniforms for the holiday.
Only a couple of our men knew German, but more of the Germans knew English. I asked one of them why that was. "Because many of us have worked in England," he said. "Before this, I was a waiter at the Hotel Cecily. Perhaps I waited on your table." "Perhaps you did," I said, laughing.
One German told me he had a girlfriend in London and that the war had interrupted their plans for marriage. I told him, "Don't worry, we'll have you beat by Easter, then you can go back and marry the girl." He laughed at that. Then he asked if I'd send her a postcard that he'd give me later. I promised I would.
Another German had been a porter at Victoria Station. He showed me a picture of his family back in Munich. His eldest sister was so lovely, I said I should like to meet her someday. He beamed and said he would like that very much and gave me his family's address.
Even those who could not converse could still exchange gifts. Our cigarettes for their cigars, our tea for their coffee, our corned beef for their sausage. Badges and buttons from uniforms changed owners, and one of our lads walked off with the infamous spiked helmet.
I myself traded a jackknife for a leather equipment belt, a fine souvenir to show when I get home.
Newspapers too changed hands, and the Germans howled with laughter at ours. They assured us that France was beaten and Russia was nearly finished.
We told them that that was nonsense, and one of them said, well, you believe your newspapers and we'll believe ours.
Clearly, they are lied to. Yet, after meeting these men, I wonder how truthful our own newspapers have been.
These are not the savage barbarians we've read so much about. They are men with homes and families, hopes and fears, principles, and yes, love of a country.
So in other words, they're men like ourselves.
Why are we led to believe otherwise?
As it grew late, a few more songs were traded around the fire, and then all joined in for, I'm not lying to you, all lang syne.
Then we parted with promises to meet again tomorrow.
And there was even some talk of a football match.
I was just starting back to the trenches when an older German clutched my arm. Why cannot we have peace and all go home? I told him gently, that you must ask your emperor. He looked at me then searchingly. Perhaps, my friend, but also we must ask our hearts.
And so, dear mother,
dear wife,
dear friend,
dear sister,
tell me, has there ever been such Christmas Eve in all history? Yours truly,
yours always,
sincerely,
with all my love,
John,
Andrew,
Philip,
Tom.
Clear, that glorious song of old, from angels bending near the earth to touch their harps of gold. Peace on the earth, goodwill to men, from heaven's all gracious King. The world in solemn stillness lay to hear the angels sing. For lo, the days are hastening on, by prophets, bards foretold, when with the ever-circling years comes round the age of gold, when peace shall over all the earth its ancient splendors fling, and the whole world gives back the song which now the angels sing. Peace on the earth, goodwill to men, from heaven's all gracious King. The world in solemn stillness lay to hear the angels sing, to hear the angels sing.
Thank you to each and every one of our servicemen and women, wherever they are serving, in whatever capacity. We appreciate the families sacrificing for and supporting them. Tonight, our soldiers were represented by Abel and Ethan Newbern, William Knoll, and Tyler Brown. And now, a reminder of another way we can individually make a difference.
Ruth went to her mailbox, and there was only one letter. She picked it up and looked at it before opening it, but then she looked at the envelope again. There was no stamp, no postmark, only her name and address. She read the letter. Dear Ruth, I'm going to be in your neighborhood Christmas Eve, and I'd like to stop by for a visit. Love always, Jesus. Her hands were shaking as she placed the letter on the table.
Why would the Lord want to visit me? I'm nobody special. I don't have anything to offer. With that thought, Ruth remembered her empty kitchen cabinets. Oh my goodness, I really don't have anything to offer. I'll have to run down to the store and buy something for dinner. She reached for her purse and counted out its contents. $5.40. Well, I can get some bread and cold cuts at least. She threw on her coat and hurried out the door. A loaf of French bread, a half-pound of sliced turkey, and a carton of milk, leaving Ruth with a grand total of 12 cents to last her until Monday. Nonetheless, she felt excited as she headed home, her meager offerings tucked under her arm. Hey, lady! Can you help us, lady? Ruth had been so absorbed in her dinner plans, she hadn't even noticed two figures huddled in the alleyway, a man and a woman, both of them dressed in little more than rags. Look, lady, I ain't got a job, and my wife and I have been living out here on the street, and, well, now it's getting cold, and we're kind of hungry. Well, if you could help us, lady, we'd really appreciate it. Ruth looked at them both. They were dirty, they smelled bad, and frankly, she was certain they could get some kind of work if they really wanted to. Sir, I'd like to help you, but I'm a poor woman myself. All I have is a few cold cuts and some bread, and I'm having an important guest for dinner tonight. And, well, I was planning on serving it to him. Yeah, well, okay, lady, I understand. Thanks anyway. The man put his arm around the woman's shoulders, turned, and headed back into the alley. As she watched them go, Ruth felt a familiar twinge in her heart. Sir, wait! Look, why don't you take this food? I'll figure something else out to serve my guest. She handed the man her grocery bag. Thanks, lady. Thanks so much. Yes, thank you. It was the man's wife, and Ruth could now see that the woman was shivering from the cold. I've got another coat at home. Here, why don't you take this one? Ruth unbuttoned her jacket and put it over the woman's shoulders. Then, smiling, she turned and walked back to the street, without her coat and with nothing to serve her guest. Thank you, lady. Thank you so much. Ruth was chilled by the time she reached her front door, and worried, too. The Lord was coming to visit, and she didn't have anything to offer him. She fumbled through her purse for the door key. But as she did, she noticed another envelope in her mailbox. That's odd. The mailman doesn't usually come twice in one day. She took the envelope out of the box and opened it. Dear Ruth, it was so good to see you again. Thank you for the lovely meal, and thank you, too, for the beautiful coat. Love always, Jesus. The air was still cold, but even without her coat, Ruth no longer noticed. Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. Matthew 25:40.
That reading was presented by Virginia Knoll. We now invite our radio audience to sing along with us, wherever you are, and for our studio audience to stand and join us as the pastor of Emmanuel Baptist Church, the home of KIBC, leads us in some familiar Christmas songs.
All right, why don't you stand with me? The words will be on the screen up there. Mark the heralding.
Newborn King, peace on earth and mercy
sing O Little Town of Bethlehem.
Oh, little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee high above thy deep and dreamless sleep. The silent stars go by, yet in the dark street shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight.
Amen. Good singing. You can be seated.
This final portion of our Christmas Eve special is brought to you by a great holiday dessert, Jell-O, and often needed in this season of family dinners, Tums.
J-E-L-L-O.
The big red letters stand for the Jell-O family.
Oh, the big red letters stand for the Jell-O family.
That's Jell-O.
Yum, yum, yum.
Jell-O pudding.
Yum, yum, yum.
Jell-O tapioca pudding.
Yes, sirree.
Often on Christmas Day and other holidays, we are inclined to eat too much, and the result, well, acid indigestion can very quickly spoil the pleasant holiday. So remember this.
Do you know about the little white tablets in the little green pocket roll? Just waiting for the moment when you need 'em to bring your acid indigestion under control. Tums are the little white tablets in the little green pocket roll. Tums for the tummy, T-U-M-S. Bring relief quicker than you'd ever guess. Best for any kind of acid distress. Keep 'em handy in the pocket roll. Keep your tummy under Tums control.
Get Tums, 10 cents, 3-roll pack a quarter, or get the new 6-roll pack with free metal carrier, only 49 cents.
This final portion of our Christmas Eve special is brought to you by a great holiday dessert, Jell-O.
And since they have already done their commercial, Christmas comes but once a year. But for many of us, it can come before we are ready. This Reader's Theater, abridged adaptation of Merry Christmas, Mr. Baxter, read by Todd and Linda Condon, Silas Newbern, and narrated by Reuben Condon, tells of the 282 Christmas cards the Baxters didn't mean to send.
October.
I've been thinking of Christmas.
Heavens, I've scarcely finished putting away the summer things. I'm so glad you reminded me. I'd better start poking around tomorrow. This is the time to buy, before things have been all pawed over. You'll have to give me some money.
That was not at all what Mr. Baxter had in mind.
I read somewhere about a woman who starts her Christmas shopping the day after Christmas. Whenever she sees something that would be just right for some special person, she buys it. And sometimes she buys half a dozen of something without the slightest idea whom she's going to give it to. Don't you think that's a wonderful system, dear? You could start an account for me. We'd call it the Christmas Fund.
Well, what I had in mind was a little different. I'm not worried about whether you'll have time to buy things. What bothers me is whether we'll have the money to pay for them. Every Christmas we start slowly and carefully, and then the whole thing gets out of hand and we end up on the 1st of January absolutely busted. For what? A lot of gewgaws that no one in his right mind would have ever bought.
Oh dear, do we have to have this argument every year? The whole spirit of Christmas.
Yes, we do. This year we're going to put Christmas under control. We're going to have a Christmas budget.
Oh, darling, that's so mercenary. It takes all the joy.
Not for me, it doesn't. It keeps me from going nuts. After dinner, we're going to sit down with pen and paper and figure out just how much each child and grandchild is going to get. We'll have a miscellaneous item for things like the tree and all that fancy wrapping paper and...
Darling, why don't you have a certified public accountant dress up as Santa Claus and give out the presents?
I'm not being funny. I'm going to set up a budget for our family and the Christmas cards and...
We won't send any Christmas cards. We can save on them anyways. They're overdone anyway. If we're going to economize, I want the children and grandchildren to have everything.
Mr. Baxter liked Christmas cards.
What good will it do the children and grandchildren if we throw every tradition of Christmas out the window? Why do we have to strip everything colorful out of our lives?
Well, because the children need things so badly. Think of the Christmases you used to have when you were a boy.
Mrs. Baxter always stuck this argument in, even when it had no connection with what went before. It was unfair, but women were always unfair when they argued.
In those days, the dollar...
I don't care about the dollar.
Now you've said something.
Mr. Baxter's Christmas budget had made no provision for Christmas cards. Now it was November, and further procrastination was impossible.
We ought to begin to think about Christmas cards.
I thought we had decided to eliminate them and save money.
Okay with me, that means, of course, that we lose touch with a lot of our old friends.
Who, for instance?
Well, Joe and Annie. Christmas cards are about the only way we keep up with them since they moved out west.
Well, I wouldn't think of not sending cards to Joe and Annie. We'll send cards to all of our good friends who live a long ways off. What I object to is sending cards to every Tom, Dick, and Harry that we see all the time.
You mean you wouldn't send Sam and Helen a card just because they live 2 blocks away?
Well, darling, of course we would. They're our best friends.
I see. I was just trying to find out who you were going to eliminate.
Well, I'll get my book.
Mrs. Baxter was a born record keeper. She could produce any birthday from her files with a flick of the finger or tell you just who came to each of the children's weddings. Now she brought out a black leather book containing their Christmas card transaction for years back.
Well, last year I see we sent out 247 cards.
Utterly absurd. We don't know 247 people. You must buy a list or something.
Well, I'll tell you one group we can cut out, the young marrieds like the Castles. I don't see any reason why we should take on our children's friends. The trouble is they visit us in the summer. Then the following Christmas, they send us a card because they feel obligated. Then we're so flattered to be recognized by the young that we send them a card, and then we're off.
It's good for old crocs like ourselves to keep up contacts with the youth. Besides, a lot of them have spent more or less grown up in our house, and I wouldn't hurt their feelings for anything. Now, let's try to cut somewhere else.
Well, here's a pair you can certainly throw out. Mr. and Mrs. Joel DeSanchez. I never even heard of them.
Sometimes I think you don't listen when I tell you things. Joel DeSanchez has been one of my best customers for 15 years.
Business, does it have to take over Christmas and everything else?
Listen, dear, women just don't seem to understand these things. One gets to know certain people in the business world in a very intimate way. I regard Joel DeSanchez as a valued personal friend. Now here's one that can go, the James Winnacles. Who in the world are the James Winnacles? What a name.
They're my cousins. They live in Peoria, and I wouldn't think of not sending them a card.
I never heard you mention them. I bet they're terrible.
Who's Henry Snell?
I don't know. Must be another one of your cousins.
I never heard of him.
Mrs. Baxter drew a heavy line through the Henry Snells.
Well, now we're getting somewheres.
When they reached the end of the list, they had eliminated 14 names.
Well, there's another section over here. These are the people who sent us cards last year and that we did not send one to them. Now, personally, I think we ought to send to the ones that sent to us last year.
Mr. Baxter agreed. He disliked being under obligations. He also disliked the idea of people sitting around all over the country and saying, "Here's one we can cut," The Baxters. They never send us a card. Yes, of course. Never cared much for them anyway. 2 hours later, Mrs. Baxter added up the revised list. It was increased by 35 names.
Well, one thing I do know is we're going to have to get our cards ready early this week. I want them 2 weeks before Christmas, and I'm not going to pick them out alone. Every time I do, you say they're terrible. This time, you're going to come with me and help me pick them out.
Mrs. Baxter had a special place for buying Christmas cards. She had an instinct for discovering special places. This one was a tiny closet of a shop off Madison Avenue, run by a serious young man with thick glasses and a generally studious look. Piled on a narrow counter was a mountain of albums containing samples of all the Christmas cards in the world. There was no room to open any one of them. The young man kept picking up albums as they slid to the floor. Finally, he just spread them out where they fell. The Baxters went through book after book.
Well, here's one that might be cute.
It was a cat in a Dutch costume, skating with his paws clasped under his tail.
Now, what in the world does that have to do with Christmas?
Nothing. That's what I like about it. I'm sick and tired of jolly little Santas and angels with freckles. This one's different.
Here's one that's not bad.
It was a reproduction of a painting. An American school. On the crest of a snow-covered hill was a stark red barn.
That's got something.
It's got a red barn.
It has more to do with Christmas than a cat.
Of course. You couldn't send a cat to everyone. Not everyone understands.
Understands what?
Look, here's one we could use for the others.
It was a Grandma Moses with a little train approaching a tiny village among hills dotted with minute spruces.
I couldn't send anything like that to my customers.
Well, why don't you pick out a card for them?
Mr. Baxter finally selected a large and expensive card depicting a forest of white birch in winter with a half-frozen brook meandering among the trees.
Why businessmen want cards twice as big as any others, I don't know. Well, how many should we get?
Well, they're much less expensive if you get 100 of each kind.
Why don't we do that? 100 of each.
We started by not buying any, now we order more than we ever have in our lives.
I know, but after all, it is Christmas.
That's true. How right you are, sir. How do you want them marked?
I think Sue and George.
That might be all right for your cat friends. But those big ones will have to be Susan and George Baxter. I think that's informal but dignified. Don't you think so?
I do indeed, sir. Very dignified and just informal enough.
Now those Grandma Moses things, Sue and George, is too intimate. What about Susan and George?
Excellent idea, sir. They will be ready the first week in December.
First week in December? This year I hope to take my time addressing them.
Sorry, madam. If you wanted them early, you should have ordered in the summer. This is the height of the rush, you know.
Early December, at the Baxter home, the first Christmas card arrived in the mail, the spearhead of the host.
Heavens, I haven't even finished addressing mine.
Perhaps this is tag end of last year's batch.
They examined it carefully. It was one of those arty affairs, a photograph of two battered Italian saints carved from wood.
Who's the character who sent this? I can't read the writing.
I don't know. It looks like Palapuni.
The fact that arty people, supposedly so happy-go-lucky, had the foresight to get their cards out before they did, depressed her to no end, for she knew the first cards to arrive were the only ones to which people paid any attention. When the flow started, she would put aside each day's intake until Mr. Baxter returned from the office. Then they would open them and inspect them with care, Mrs. Baxter classifying them by type: religious, outdoor scenes, funny animals, cute dissipated art, originals, and just plain corn. Then they painstakingly deciphered the scrawled messages and grouped the cards carefully on the mantel. Like the growth of wild honeysuckle, however, the cards quickly overran the mantel and spread over the tables. They crept up the bookcases and around the pictures, and eventually they covered everything in the room, except the chairs and the floors. The sight of them gave Mrs. Baxter an acute inferiority complex until she finally faced the issue and devoted her nights and days to preparing her own cards, scribbling personal messages and pawing through old address files.
I don't understand. We pay a fortune to have our names printed on our cards to save the trouble of signing them. Then you wear yourself ragged writing letters on each one.
That makes them so much more personable.
What are you writing? My dears, it's been ages since we've seen you. The next time you're in New York, won't you plan to stay with us? Listen, dear, if you received a wire from the Morton Kings telling you they were coming to New York and planning to stay with us, you'd have a fit.
But, darling, you know they're not going to come, so what harm does it to be to hospitable and friendly?
As the flow of cards increased, there were more and more from people to whom they hadn't sent one or whom they had stricken from their lists.
Can you read that name?
Looks like Herzog.
Oh, it's a terrible card. Oh, I know who it is. It's the Hartleys. We met them in Nantucket. Isn't it awful we never sent them one?
Are we supposed to send cards to everyone we meet at Nantucket?
Oh, George, this is terrible. Here's a card from the Smithers. We cut their names off the list last fall. Let's see, there's just about enough time to get a card to them if I send it off today.
Send theirs back. They won't notice it.
Eventually, there came a day each year when the volume of cards increased to the point where morale collapsed.
Well, I left today's batch over on the bench.
We'll look them over later.
The next morning, Mrs. Baxter would open the lot and drop them in a large punch bowl which she placed on the table each year, when every other available space had been filled.
Away in a manger, no crib for a bed. The little Lord Jesus laid down his sweet head. The stars in the sky looked down when they lay. The little Lord Jesus asleep on the hay.
Christmas night.
It was a good Christmas.
The grandchildren love to hear the Christmas story. They listen so intently, although you do read it every year.
I haven't read this card. Merry Christmas. On this day of cards and gifts to each other, we celebrate the greatest gift, Jesus. We offer our desire for God's blessing to you and yours, the Henry Snell family.
You know, Christmas is about the only time of year when people forget themselves for a little while and think of others. You know, we start thinking about ourselves, of course, what we want and what we're going to get, and we worry about what others think of us. But in the end, we realize it's about what we are going to give and what has already been given to us.
It came to pass in those days, there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And this taxing was first made when Cyrenius was governor of Syria. and all went to be taxed, everyone into his own city. And Joseph also went up from Galilee out of the city of Nazareth into Judea unto the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be taxed with Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child. And so it was that while they were there, the days were accomplished that she should be delivered. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. And there were in the same country shepherds, abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them, and glory of the Lord shone round about them, and they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you, ye shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, and lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. And it came to pass, as the angels were gone away from them into heaven, the shepherds said one to another, Let us now go even unto Bethlehem, and see this thing which is come to pass, which the Lord hath made known unto us. And they came with haste, and found Mary and Joseph and the babe lying in a manger. And when they had seen it, they made known abroad the saying which was told them concerning this child. And all they that heard it wondered at those things which was told them by the shepherds. But Mary kept all these things and pondered them in her heart. And the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things that they had heard and seen, as it was told unto them.
It's Christmas once again. Yes, it's that time of year to reflect now and then, and wish that you were here to talk about the story about a baby born one night, a king without his glory, who left his throne of might. The babe grew into a child, and the child became a man. The king dwelt among his people, but they would not understand. God left his heavenly splendor. The Son came from above. He became a simple servant to show that he was love. Then one day he died, crucified upon a tree. Even now I wonder why. Why did he die for you and me? But Christmas without Easter is only half the story. Jesus, the Son of God, arose again in glory. He didn't come that night just to give us a holiday. He came to give us life and showed us he was the way. Emmanuel, our God, is with us, as the prophets had foretold. He redeemed us with his precious blood, not with silver, not with gold. The wise men later brought their gifts, knelt and worshiped at his feet. Like a wise man, will you give your heart to this Prince of Peace?
And folks, that is really what our celebration of Christmas is all about. Our desire is that you have personally met the Prince of Peace, our Savior, whose birth we remember especially this time of year. We encourage you to seek out any one of us if you have questions. Also, before we go, we want to invite you, if you do not have a church home of your own, to please join us at Emmanuel. Emmanuel means God with us. And truly, he meets with us. And we would love to have you join us as well. Sunday school for all ages, 10 o'clock, and morning service at 11. Now, if our studio audience will stand and join our cast in concluding this special with O Holy Night. And this is Elijah Newbern with Beth Ann Freeman signing off, KIBC 1611. May you all have a Merry Christmas.
over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. While shepherds kept their watching o'er silent flocks by night, behold, throughout the heavens there shone a holy light. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born.